Case studies are one of the most important learning tools in business school, and INSEAD happens to be excellent at writing them. Case Center recently revealed that 6 out of the top 10 best-selling cases in the past 40 years were written by INSEAD members, faculty. Here today to talk about why INSEAD case studies are so widely read are the authors of some of these best-selling cases. Christian Pinson, an emeritus professor of marketing who wrote the second-ranked case study on Swatch, Jean-Claude Lareche, the Alfred Heineken chaired professor of marketing who wrote the case study on Virgin Atlantic Airways, Reinhard Engelmar, the emeritus chaired professor of marketing who wrote Zantac with Christian Pinson, and Pierre Chandon, the L'Oreal chaired professor of marketing who wrote the Unilever in Brazil case study. Christian, Reinhard, Jean-Claude, Pierre, welcome to INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you.
Christian, I'm wondering if we could start with you concerning Swatch. Swatch resurrected the Swiss watch industry, which was in decline, and also created a whole new category at the time, which was the watch as fashion accessory. But it's been a while since that happened. What is it that makes this case timeless?
The case tells the true story. The Swatch saga has been documented and highlighted in many books, many business press articles, but this is not the real story. So when people start reading the case, and then when they discover that Dr. Tomke, Ernst Tomke, and Sprecher, Franz Sprecher, and a few others are the real Mr. Swatch, not Nicolas Yek, they get really excited. Then there is another possible feature of the case, which is that, and this is kind of a feature of most of my cases, the case is very comprehensive, in the sense that it covers not only the big strategic picture, describe the industry, the evolution of the industry, but also goes into the details of subtle details of the marketing mix. There is another reason for the case to be a success. The case addresses a few concepts which are still relevant today. There is this idea of a breakaway strategy. So Tomke went for a different formula. Low cost, but high quality, meaning high value, high perceived value. Initially, the reaction of the market, the reaction of the people in the company was, no way, this is just impossible. People tend to forget that because they take it for granted today that Swatch was an easy adventure. They did it against everyone.
Jean-Claude, Virgin Atlantic Airways managed to start from scratch and build themselves into a transatlantic airline. And at the same time, they put excitement back into flying. What is it about this case that makes it also transcend the test of time?
My background is more in simulations, and I've written a number of simulations, including MarkStrat. And we use a lot of cases. The typical case is there's a problem, you do the analysis, you look at options, and you make a decision. So there are cases about advertising, product launch, distribution, and so on. For me, there were two things missing. One is, business is not about one decision. And there are big decisions, but business leaders take hundreds of decisions per day. And then the case is missing the dynamics. So in simulations, I found the multiplicity of decisions and the dynamics, enriching beyond the cases. Virgin had also the same elements of a simulation because things tend to happen by themselves. There's no big decisions in Virgin. There are some more important decisions than others, but everybody can make decisions. But everybody in Virgin can make decisions and can participate to the value creation in Virgin, and that's what made the case fascinating for me. And then there are stories where flight attendants come up with an innovation. And then this innovation really grabs attention, creates value for the customers, but creates value for the company as well. So in the end, what Virgin is special about and what makes its success like eternal, at least so far, is the fact that there's a culture of value creation where everybody can participate and creating innovations that are good for the customer and good for the firm at the same time.
What challenges did Virgin tackle that make it a useful case?
Challenges from the beginning. I think that's what people love about the case. Richard Branson bought a license for one line between two lousy airports. One was Gatwick in London when nobody wanted to use Gatwick, and the other one was Newark in New Jersey when nobody wanted to use Newark because it was brand new. And so that, he leased an aircraft from Boeing for 12 months, minimizing the risk, and then made a lot of mistakes and learned from the mistakes, obviously. And the story of Virgin is always like that, making mistakes one after the other, but in the end, learning from the mistakes and having big success.
What other industries can benefit from these experiences of Virgin Atlantic Airways?
Well, every industry actually. Virgin was ahead of its time. I think what Virgin did, what Richard Branson did in a multiplicity of industries, not only airlines, is the kind of thing that many industries are trying to get today, which is how do you engage customers? How do you create not only customers that buy your products, but how do you make the customers work for you?
Reinhard, Zantac unseated the #1 best-selling anti-ulcer drug in a very entrenched market. What are the business lessons here for other companies and other sectors?
What made the case successful was that it demonstrated that the fundamental principles and concepts of marketing apply to pharmaceuticals just like to any other industry. The first point was a minor product advantage can become a valuable source for a competitive advantage. While Zantac was not really something very big, there were some improvements, but they were seen fairly small. So that's really the first point, that even in a high-tech industry, and pharmaceuticals is, high-tech industry if there's any, small but meaningful advantages can lead to success. And we've seen this since then, Apple, Google, Facebook, these are companies extremely successful, but they're moving on the shoulders of predecessors, making improvements that are meaningful to customers. The second idea that's now common currency is the importance of speed, because competitive advantages are fleeting. They vanish very rapidly. And so the case illustrates that this company, the people that developed and marketed Zantac really were aware of the importance of speed and throughout the process. The third issue was that Glaxo was a mid-sized company facing a giant, having a product which some people at Glaxo thought was a valuable product, but lacking the marketing resources, the clinical resources, the global reach to actually exploit that asset. They said, well, we've got a product which we think is good and we're lacking some resources on the marketing sales side, let's partner. So they actually took this product and signed partnerships virtually in every country. And again, this has become, partnerships have become a key fact. Third issue has to do with competition. The fact that you can be a small competitor, but by carefully analyzing your opponent, understanding his blind spots, understanding his priorities, understanding maybe his complacency, you actually can outmaneuver the competitor.
Pierre, you wrote the Unilever in Brazil case, which is about the challenges of how multinationals market to the poor. Certainly many companies in many product categories today are still struggling with how to do this. How does the Unilever case actually point the way forward even to this day?
Yeah, I think the reason why the case has been so successful and still is used today, we're selling like 10,000 copies per year, is that it's still a very important issue and one that we have not figured out. Companies go into emerging markets because there's this masses of poor consumers and they don't know how to sell to them. This is an important problem. How do we solve it? And it's difficult. So that's the first point. The second point, I think, is that the case shows that just like the other cases we saw is marketing can create value. And so the value of the case, like Unilever, is that it puts participants in a situation where they know nothing. and they're lost. And then they go back to the basic principles of marketing, which is find out what they want. And this is the first thing that we learn from the cases. Get out of the office, don't read reports, spend times, fly to the northeast of Brazil, live for weeks in the rural poverty, and you will get those customer insights from which everything else grows. And let me give you an example. What they found out is actually poor consumers pay a lot of attention to brands. And you might think it's a little bit, in fact, counterintuitive, because you may think the only thing that matters is price, but no. They strongly believe that strong brands, and in fact expensive brands, will provide better quality. What they said was, this is a smart detergent because it's powerful. And with the money that you save, you can buy treats to your daughter, not to your husband or the son, to the daughter, meaning that you fulfill your goal as a mother. And that was one of the insights, of the many insights from the case that comes from understanding consumers. So what I think what this case is great and why it's been used a lot is that a bit like Zantac and Swatch and Virgin Atlantic, it's comprehensive. There's pricing, there's distribution, there's a bit of everything. It tells the true story. It's still the good old principle that still applies today. Find out what they want and give it to them, except that what people want in the northeast of Brazil when they're poor and don't have a washing machine is totally different from what you and I want. If you go back to the basic principles of marketing, interact with consumers, focus on what's really important and nothing else, you can actually make sense of this complex world and create value for you and for the customers. So it's a universal truth, I think.
Okay. Certainly good storytelling is key to producing a compelling case study. What are the storytelling elements behind a well-told case study?
I think what's common to all of these cases is the element of surprise. In each of these cases, it was a situation where it seemed very unlikely that the product would succeed. The case, the Swiss watch industry, low price product in Switzerland competing against Asian seems strange. The Swiss industry was at the point of extinction. So that was really very surprising that they survived and that they succeeded in a segment which really was not made for them. And also showing that even people within the company did not believe that they could succeed.
We try to look at the real story with all the mistakes made on the way, the searches, the wrong directions and all of that, because that's how students can learn. When we write the story of a genius, like you could say Richard Branson is a genius, most students have a hard time relating to a genius. They can admire a genius, but they cannot relate and aspire to do the same thing. But when you can show that even people like Richard Branson or even Steve Jobs or others have made a lot of mistakes, okay, then the students can learn a lot from that. Now, in a good case, there should be stories, but there are small stories within the bigger picture of the case. In Virgin Atlantic, for instance, the idea is how do you transmit out of the thousands of stories in Virgin Atlantic, with only one story of a few ones, this culture of innovation. So we have one about the Virgin tailor on board, on only one line, London to Hong Kong. And it does not exist anymore. It lasted 25 years because Virgin likes to change. And the whole thing comes from a flight attendant from Virgin who one day in Hong Kong, wanted to have a dress made for her. She found a good tailor. She was so happy. She told her boss, and then it became a service. And then just that small story, which is half a page in a case, you can discuss for a long time. And you can see how in other airlines it cannot happen because people don't listen to ideas from flight attendants. If they listen to it, then they need to put the accountants behind it, and they most likely would kill the thing. And if it's not killed, then they want to have a system approach. That means the same innovation has to happen on every line in the network. And obviously, that can work only on London, Hong Kong, and a few other destinations like that, but it cannot become a systematized approach to the airline.
There's one thing also that is common in all the cases. I mean, there is and then what happened? But more importantly, why did it happen? And I think only because we spend a lot of time and effort working in collaboration with the companies do we also know the why. we also are able to talk about if they hadn't done this, what else did they have in mind? And why didn't they do this? And so we're able to really go beyond just what happened.
What is also the value for case studies for businesses? I know many companies come to INSEAD and they actually commission you to write cases for purposes of internal or external examination.
One of the main reasons is that they want exposure in the business school. I established a contact with Luciano Benetton. He wanted the true story to be told in the leading business schools. That was at the time of the controversy surrounding their United Colors of Benetton campaigns. And he was sick and tired of people asking him about communication. So he said, I want the B school students to understand that we started from scratch. We're a bunch of very poor Italians. We were born poor, and we made it big.
The last case that we wrote at INSEAD in marketing is L'Oréal in China. What's great about L'Oréal and I think innovative companies like L'Oréal is they understand that they have to open even the dark secrets and talk about the decisions that they're not so proud of, because it's a pedagogical tool. It's not public relations to recruit students. And those companies that are open to acknowledging their mistakes, then they help us. The whole art of writing a case is to find a company which is open and interesting and has something interesting to say, like L'Oréal or Virgin Atlantic, etc. But also to be able to identify a concept or an issue which is timeless. So in the case of L'Oréal in China, it's about should you position this product on functional benefits or lifestyle? I mean, that's an issue which we'll be discussing again in 20 years. And so all of these cases that we have here, they were able to have both an exciting product that people can relate to, an industry that they want to learn about, but more importantly, focusing on an important business truth, like culture, like innovation, which they will be relevant no matter when you look at it.
Yes, Sarah, I think we can distinguish three kinds of case studies. One type is when we want to write a case about a company and the company does not know that we want to write a case. So we go after this company. That's what happened with Virgin Atlantic. Then there are companies that come to us and they ask us to write a case. And then, of course, there's always a suspicion that they want to look good for generations of students. And then it's our job to make sure that it's not only the good side, but it's the other sides also that come. The third kind of cases on which we've been working at INSEAD are cases for company programs. That means we run seminars just for a company, and that company wants us to write a case for the learning for only their own executives. And then we can get into very deep issues and some big failures that are not communicated outside, because that case study is used only for the purpose of these internal seminars that we run at INSEAD for this company.
What has changed in INSEAD itself on how case studies are being used in the classroom?
So I think what has changed the most is the multimedia aspect and the fact that today students or also executive participants can immediately find out what happened by going online. And so we have innovated ourselves by providing more material to the instructors. So right now, for example, we have a website that goes with the case, where us as a professor, we can update every time we want new information. We share our presentations, videos. We try to enrich the content that's delivered. The one thing that most people don't realize is the case studies themselves, they're usually fairly short, to the point. They can be actually bought by anybody. But the real value comes into the information which is provided only to the instructor, on which we spend a lot of time. It's the hidden side of the iceberg. And that's something which I think is also common to all the cases we have here. A lot of thought and time spent on this teaching material, which is now not just a paper document, but a lot of multimedia and a lot of interactive aspects.
Christian Reinhardt, Jean-Claude Pierre, thank you for being with us today on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you.